President Bola Tinubu and other prominent Nigerian leaders, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Governor of Anambra State Peter Obi, and governors, have emphasized the need for unity and love among the citizens as Muslims around the world celebrate this year's Eid-El-Fitri, being the end of 30 days Ramadan fasting. Tinubu sought union of wills and action to build Nigeria as the service chiefs reiterated their resolve to secure the nation. Rejoicing with the Muslim Ummah at Eid-El-Fitri, Tinubu said it was an auspicious occasion signifying the end of Ramadan, a hallowed season which reflected total submission to God Almighty and to his command of sacrifice and service to humankind. On his part, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar congratulated Muslims in the country for the successful completion of the mandatory fasting in the holy month of Ramadan. The former Vice President, in a press statement by his media office, said the lessons of the Ramadan fasting should remain abiding, even when the holy month had passed. While the presidential candidate of Labour Party in the 2023 general election, Mr. Peter Obi, charged Nigerian Muslims to use the window availed by Salah to seek Allah's intervention in Nigeria's situation. Obi charged the people not to allow the prevailing unprecedented hardship in the country to affect their spirit of love, brotherliness, and peaceful coexistence. Well, we've heard from our leaders. Indeed, it's Eid Mubarak, happy celebration and congratulations on the completion of 30 days of fasting in the holy month of Ramadan to all Muslim faithfuls. Dr. Bazi, your take on this?
Well, I mean, after a fashion, every political leader, every person occupying a position of importance in the spirit of the season has had to issue a statement to congratulate the Muslim faithful on the conclusion of the month of Ramadan, a season that is devoted to sacrifice, devoted to complete faithfulness to the Almighty Allah, and also, to abide by the teachings of the Holy Prophet about spreading love, about sacrifice, about devotion, and using the period of the 30-day fasting for self-renewal and for seeking the face of God. So 30 days after, celebrations are in order. However, if we check all the statements that have been issued by the leaders, well, all of them are preaching, unity. Tajuni Abbas, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, says people should use even the post-Ramadan season to continue to pray for the nation. The President Tinubu, who is in Lagos to celebrate the Eid-El-Fitri, talks about unity. All the other leaders also talk about unity, senators, all of them. Virtually all the governors were saying more or less the same things. But two things stand out for me. You'll notice that in the statement by the opposition leaders, particularly Atiku Abubakar and also Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, while celebrating with Muslims, both of them talked about the hardship in the country. Atiku Abubakar, the Waziri Adamawa, in particular said this month of Ramadan had been, had placed many Nigerians because of the economic hardship in the country under pressure. Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party in his own statement also said, there has been unprecedented hardship in the country, but that this should not affect the spirit of love, brotherliness, and peaceful coexistence. And he added the line that Nigerians, this is now the time for Nigerians to pray and seek Allah's intervention because of the suffering in the land. But of course, what do you expect from leaders of the opposition? Secondly, I also noticed that the security agencies, notably Federal Road Safety and also Civil Defense in some of the states, in Bauchi, in Kogi, they have said they are deploying security operatives to ensure that whatever celebration occurs this time around does not degenerate into any kind of misconduct or breach of public peace. Well, I don't know. The security agencies have a responsibility to do their job, but I have not seen anybody showing any signs that there will be serious jubilation out there. I know that the big celebration is usually during the Eid-El-Kabir, but in some communities, even during Eid-El-Fitri, which is called the small Ileya in some communities. In some places they also celebrate. But this year, with a bag of rice so expensive, with everything so high in terms of cost, I don't think that people will have more than enough to even jubilate. Nigerian breweries this year, they've had to increase prices of drinks by about 3 times. So when you go to any gathering now, you don't see anybody, as a result of the economic reality, just overindulging themselves. So the economic hardship has also compelled people to be moderate in the choices they make in terms of enjoyment, however. And this is where I'm going. The major concern here is the point made in some of the messages that, look, people should carry the piety that we saw them demonstrating during the month of Ramadan, during the holy month. They should carry it beyond the 30-day fasting period. In other words, the month of Ramadan should not just be about a religious observance. It should be about the people, not just Muslims themselves, but also others in this environment called Nigeria, imbibing the lessons of holiness. If you did not drink and indulge yourself during the month of Ramadan, don't say Ramadan has ended. This is now the time to drink. If you were very kind to your neighbors and you were very organized and peaceful during Ramadan, don't say the holy month has passed. This is now the time to misbehave. No. The end of Ramadan should not compel people, to go back to their old ways. And many Nigerians, don't understand that the teachings in all the religions is that you should show example in your own personal lives. All the teachings by the prophet, they are supposed to guide us to behave, properly. And I hope our leaders too, all these leaders who have issued statements talking about unity, brotherliness, sacrifice, I hope in terms of the choices, governance choices that they make, that they too will remember that there are people in this country that they have to be kind to. And being kind to them is by obeying the rule of law and by governing well. So it's not enough for every governor to issue statement and ministers to issue statement. We want to see in their behavior that they too understand the import of their message and the essence of the holy months. Happy Eid-el-Mubarak.
Well, only a few weeks back, we had celebrated a Christian event, and now we are now with Eid Mubarak. And the reason I'm saying this is because during that time as well, we had a number of goodwill messages from the president, the state governors, agents, some security agents, and in the same way, their messages are about promoting peace, celebrating those who are celebrating, congratulating, in this instance, Muslims who have been able to faithfully fast for the last 30 days and now are able to resume and eat. But one of the things, or the thread that runs through a number of the statements, is the fact that those things which they did and imbibed during the holy month of Ramadan should not be just for that season alone, but that we should see that on an everyday basis and hope, and maybe that might just make Nigeria and Nigerians better people and a better place to live in. And I think that's quite a solid point right there. We should not be hypocritical in the practicing of our faith, such that we only dedicate a month to actualize, adhering to the tenets of our faith. The practice of our faith, whether you're Muslim or Christian, should be every day of your life. If we had true Christians, true Muslims in Nigeria, we shouldn't be in the position or state that we're in, because these same leaders are enjoining the citizens to be, to pursue the path of brotherliness, to be kind, to remember sacrifice, to be honest, and these lofty things. However, leadership starts from the top. So I'm hoping that as they have released a statement, it will also be an opportunity for self-reflection, because the people also deserve leaders who promote brotherliness, who promote peace, who promote religious tolerance, who promote love amongst one another. But beyond that as well, I must speak for people who unfortunately might not be able to celebrate today's small Salah because of the hardship, the prevailing hardship in the country. In Katsina State, the governor declared one more day for the holiday, Friday. It was a statement signed by the governor, Atiku, rather, and said that Friday, and he had made provisions for his people to be able to enjoy the celebrations. Beyond the provisions for this short period of time, we're asking our government at this point to be responsible, take responsibility for making the lives of Nigerian people better. So when we have reprieves like this, where workers can take time off work and enjoy time with their family, it's not done in hardship. Some people are not happy today because they are hungry. And so this is also an opportunity for us, if we were to write a statement on behalf of the Nigerian people, to advocate for us to look deeply into the things that would begin to make life better and more bearable for the Nigerian people. Also, when we talk about public holidays, I just want to touch on Katsina very quickly as an example. Yes, the people are excited, and I don't want to put a downer on the number of people who are watching from home, quite delighted that they get one extra day of holiday. In Katsina State, it's been extended by one. Let's also consider small businesses or private-owned businesses that suffer when there's a public holiday, so that whilst we want the people to be happy with announcements like this, we must also look at the economic costs of public holidays and asking people to remain at home and spend time with their family. So these are some of the issues. But again, a great day to celebrate, a great day to pray for Nigeria. As our leaders have enjoined us, we will pray as we will work, but also a great day to spend time and celebrate and just ease from the stress that has been toiling a number of people in recent times. Move on to our next story this morning. The Lagos State government has suspended commercial activities at Dosumu Street and its environs following the outbreak of a fire. No fewer than 14 buildings were gutted by fire on Tuesday in Dosumu Market in the Lagos Island area of Lagos State. No casualties were recorded and nobody was injured. The fire, which raged for hours before it was put out by the fire service, also resulted in the demolition of all affected buildings as they were already distressed. On the arrival of the Arise News crew at the scene of the incident, it was gathered that the fire started when the printer decided to refuel his generator while it was still running.
This morning, and this building, now they start for this morning, because he say they put generator with oil. He won't put. He put it. Now they do fire come outside. After everybody in the pour water, make a drum. It's no fresh. After they put that generator come outside, now they go like this, they go anywhere fire.
It started on this 3-story building, the penthouse, and whichever is affected is a printing house. He was trying to refuel his tank, the generator it was on. From there, it got out of hand. From there, it started scattering. We don't know what happened, though there were allegations that there are explosives on the floor, how it crossed over. But so far so good. More than 14 buildings have been affected. 14, more than. The actual one is 14. Whereas after the whole thing, we will look at those who have partial impact or not. No injury, nobody has sustained any death. We have not recorded any death, so far so good.
The information we gathered as at the time we arrived at the scene of emergency was that there is a particular 3-story building with a penthouse. On the penthouse building, there was a printing press company who was trying to fuel generator that was at work. While he was trying to fuel the generator that was at work, that ignited to fire, and the fire started spreading. So we learned that there were kegs of fuel surrounded in that premise also. So he was trying to throw them down one after the other. So as he was throwing the keg down, that ignited and started spread to all the adjacent buildings.
Today is like this building. They said someone want to put petrol to the generator, and maybe it's not off the generator. and the thing catch fire. To rescue himself, he threw the generator to the other side. That's how the thing is started.
Very unfortunate incident, but thankfully, even in that, there's a ray of light that there have been no casualties recorded or deaths. But this is the second time in 30 days this is happening in that particular market, Dr. Obati. Your take on this story?
Okay, well, we sympathize with the persons who lost, their properties. It was a cosmetics, section of the market, of the Balogun market that was affected, and the total cost in terms of estimate is that billions of naira may have been lost. But these fires are too incessant, they are too frequent. In 2023, there were fire incidents affecting markets, whether it was Plank Market or it was a market in Ajegunle or a market in Yaba that was reported. I mean, within a period of about 5 months, the newspapers reported almost about 15, 20 cases of market fires. And now this year, the same pattern has started. In January, there was a fire incident at a section of Idumota market. That was in January. This is the second one at Balogun market. And within the last 24 hours, there's been another one. The Balogun market that, Arise correspondent was reporting occurred on Monday. On Tuesday, yesterday, there was another fire incident at Dosumu market, also, affecting quite a number of buildings. So between January and April, already 3 reported incidents. And if you see the pattern, one, the fire service always tends to take its time. So what is responsible for this? We need to look into this. Is it that, there's an issue with the response time? Or is it the issue, as NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency, was trying to put out, that, there are usually obstructions in terms of access to the scene. But the fire, this one that is being reported, started around 12 o'clock. The fire services could not put out the fire until about 4 p.m. in the evening. So in terms of efficiency and timing of response and all of that, I think that's one thing we need to look into. 2, we also need to do a lot in terms of education. I mean, what kind of person is that will be pouring fuel into a generator that was still on? So many of our people too, they act either out of ignorance or sheer negligence. And, the only way to do this is perhaps to educate them better. That you don't unnecessarily endanger other people's lives and your own life just because you need to put on the generator. How many minutes will it take for you to put it off, refuel it properly, and then put it on again? Number 3 is that in all of these stories, there's been talk about generator. Now, we run a generator economy. Some of the people interviewed said almost every shop in a 3-story building will have their own generator. And it's not as if there is proper arrangement made for this generating sets. And that is the case, because there's no regular electricity supply. We have had cases of generating sets exploding in the night. We have had cases of families, having to die needlessly because of fumes generated by those sets. Most of them fall into the category of what they call I better pass my neighbor, which is a very cheap, affordable generator, which may not be the best of technology. So many of these losses that we incur in many of these markets is also because of the level of underdevelopment in Nigeria. And that is why we keep saying that if government is able to solve our problems, address our issues, sector by sector, part of the game is that the people will have a better experience as citizens, and needless losses, including lives and properties, will have been prevented. Well, the 4th point to make is that this should be investigated. Where we say it after a fashion, that anytime there is an incident like this, there should be investigation, in the expectation that lessons will be learned. But do we learn any lessons in Nigeria? The pattern that we witnessed in 2023 and we were talking about the fire next time, the same pattern is beginning to emerge now in Lagos. So which market is going to go up in flames, or which other shops, which section of any market is going to experience a fire incident? Maybe, perhaps, to address the issue of response time, maybe there should be fire stations in all these markets. Because when there is a fire incident in Balogun, Breadfruit Street in Lagos, and you have to be calling for fire truck from Ikeja, from Ijegun. I mean, look at the time it will even take them to get to the scene of the crisis. So maybe these markets need to be properly equipped with fire service infrastructure. After all, they have banks in all these markets, and government allowed banks to be there so that the traders can save their money easily. Safety should be the first condition. Safety should be the major priority, and government may begin to think along those lines, apart from training traders and also the market guards about fire precaution protocols.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we've just evaluated the immediate and remote causes. And the immediate, of course, what a number of people, eyewitnesses, had talked about was the unfortunate events that happened whereby a trader was trying to refuel his generator whilst it was still on. And of course, the bigger question then would be around the supply of power and the fact that traders in such an overcrowded market still have to depend on generators to fuel their, to power their businesses. Now, one of the things I would say is that when you have an overcrowded market like that, there should be basic safety protocols that ought to be adhered to. Some people might say that these things are expensive to run, but when you look at the cost of a fire like this to businesses, as eyewitnesses report that it was a day of sadness for many traders in the market. A number of them were in tears. A number of them were distraught, were devastated because the amount of money they had lost by their shops being burnt. Imagine if a small fraction of that amount was dedicated to safety protocol trainings. And I would suggest that as a result of the spate of fires that happened in markets in recent times, the Lagos State government should make it mandatory for a representative of shops in the market to undergo training on how to respond on basic safety procedures in a crowded place like the market. It should be mandatory, because when we have incidents like this, all we just do is we cry out and we talk about how sad it is, and in some cases even lose lives. It is important that the people understand basic safety protocols. One of the things that happened at the Lasema PS, the permanent secretary, had said on site yesterday was that not only was it bad enough that the fire was started by a careless move, but also after that happened, the first response was that the people threw the generator out, thereby endangering other buildings around, and that's why there was a spread of fire across. So people are not even aware, and we see that happen a number of times. When someone collapses or faints in the market, people just surround the person. So there's no health and safety protocol in places like this. We must begin to make it a culture, especially when we have crowded spaces like this in many parts of the world, and as it should be in Nigeria. There are safety procedures. It is clear. It is marked up. There are billboards. There are sensitization campaigns to ensure that market or shop owners are able to understand what to do in the event of an emergency. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have that here. So I believe that these number of fires that have occurred, sometimes they're an act of God, sometimes errors do happen, but we can minimize the extent of damage if people who are there understand what to do when it happens. And then let's not even talk about the response of, the Lagos State Emergency Response Team had mentioned that they responded quite quickly, but there were issues around the availability of water. Are we still talking about that in 2024? We've dealt with this for so many years. It shouldn't be an issue anymore. We must be able to respond to emergencies a bit more efficient urgently, especially in a state like Lagos, which is set to be the center of excellence and the commercial nerve capital of Nigeria. So these are some of the things I must talk about. But kudos to the Lagos State, to LASEMA, to NIMA. They were on ground. They were able to contain the situation and respond very quickly by demolishing some buildings that were already distressed. So great job right there. But there are a lot more things that can be done. And I'm hoping that this will be one lesson that we'll take to ensure that we prevent incidents like this or the magnitude of this in the future. But let's move on to other news making the rounds this morning. The presidential candidate of People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the 2023 election, Atiku Abubakar, doubled down on his criticism of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road project yesterday as he challenged President Bola Tinubu to disclose the full cost of the highway project. The president of the Nigeria Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Nasima Dele Oye, has insisted that the duties collected by the Nigeria Customs Service should be charged in naira rather than in foreign currencies. Moving on to the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden described Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's approach to the war in Gaza as a mistake in one of his sharpest critics of how the Israeli government is prosecuting the conflict against Hamas. A South African court has ruled that former President Jacob Zuma can run for office in the country's upcoming general election, overturning an earlier decision that had barred him from contesting the polls. Also, Boeing is facing new pressure after a whistleblower reported safety concerns over the manufacturing of some of its planes to U.S. regulators. Engineer Sam Salipur accused Boeing of taking shortcuts in the construction of its 787 and 777 jets.